Okay, once I have transferred my photograph, my next job as a watercolor painter is to begin in the background. I want to make sure that I hang on to this black and white version photo because I'll find that useful as I paint. But if I'm going for realistic color on my photograph, I probably will want to paint with my small color photo visible rather than the black and white photo visible. Adjustments in color, but this gives me the guideline or the basis for beginning my painting. Just like any watercolor painting, I'm going to start in the background. Okay, I want to keep my painting moving from the back to the front, from big shapes to the small shapes. When I'm doing large areas such as the sky and know that I'm going to be doing a wash, it can be useful for me to wet my paper first. You can see I had a little bit of blue paint in my paintbrush when I did this. If I'm painting things like trees, I'm going to go right over my transfer. Don't want to skip that spot. I can always paint a tree over, can never go back and paint the sky around the tree. So you want to make sure that painting just right through some of those things and having enough water so that you can make as a wash or enough color mixed up so that you can wash across the whole image. No problem. If at any point you're worried that that's going to dry strange because of the color, the water that you've put on there, you can go ahead and make adjustments now. I can push this around a little bit. There's kind of a bit of cloud cover here, so I can go back with my paper towel or my dry brush. So I can squeeze my brush dry, and I can add some of those clouds in by just squeezing out some water that's here. Some of the clouds that are here at the tree line. I can always change things like the sky. I don't have to have it be exactly like my picture. But if I want it fairly close to the photo, I want that, like I said, that reference. We're always moving from the back to the front. See, I painted right over these trees that are going to be closer. Adding a few more clouds. And now I'm going to paint right up into my ground. I'm always moving, like I said, from the general to the specific. From the back, from light paint back towards darker paint. Never starting with detail first, always going from big to small areas. So you can see I'm going to start right back here in the background of my photograph. I'm going to go right these trees because I know I'm going to be able to paint those trees later right through this kind of background color. The background gets a little greener here now. You'll see I'm just going to go right ahead and just keep moving forward with that greener background color. Again, jumping right through, painting right over some of this stuff because I can see that that greener color continues. It gets brighter as we move this way. So I'm thinking big picture, thinking big color, thinking background to the front first. Color here in the ground gets really dark, kind of dirty. What is dirt? Dirty. But I'm going to cool this off a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of blue in this color. Mixing it on top of some of the green of the background that I've already used. And again, I'm going to stay lighter than I actually want my painting to end up later on. I can always make something darker. Always go back and add more detail. Thinking big first. making sure to paint around any like subject area. Painting right over the top of something like a shadow, because that will get painted right over the top of my. This first coat of color is always going to be light enough to be able to see those through. Once this is done, and as they start to think about drying, I can go back, and now I have this odd brown, green, blue color that I can use back here. My sky has kind of set up enough that I can start blocking in some of these trees here. I didn't do them before just simply because I didn't want them to completely my sky. Go all the way along the back, and again I'm painting right over the top of those trees. That'll be detail closer trees, so all to add and adjust those. Fixing those is a detail problem for later in the painting process. And see there's some darker shadows here in these trees so that they can do a little wet into wet mixing. So I'm mixing some more of the blue I used back here. Just gonna drop some of that in. Always be able to adjust. I'm also going to start to think about these shadows in the trees because my ground is wet. I want those to start to soften up in that wet ground. So part of what was really interesting to me were these big long shadows in this painting. So I'm putting in now so that they can blend into my wet ground and you to paint. Also making sure that these shadows stay cool. So they will contrast with the warm color I'm going to use in my horse later on in the painting process.